Shabbat Shalom. It's Friday again. And this time it's Parashat Ekev. Parashat Ekev is another one of those parashiot which has so many amazing quotes from it. But I want to focus on probably the most famous piece of Parashat Ekev, which is the second paragraph of the Shema. V'haya im Shema. We all know that Kriyat Shema is one of the most important pieces of Jewish literature. That is probably one of the most famous pieces. We say it every single day, twice. Sometimes even some people say the first paragraph more than twice, depending on circumstance. And the second paragraph of Shema is equally famous. V'haya im Shema tishma'on mitzvotai. If you listen to my commandments, to worship Hashem, to love Hashem with all of your heart, with all of your soul. I will give you rain for your land, and it will indeed give bracha, it will give blessing to your land. And that is basically the kind of theme that continues on throughout that parasha. And I want to take a moment to delve into this concept. Chazal very often use Geshem, rain, as a key for parnasa, for making a living, for economic good times, for, in many ways, money. Money is rain. Rain is money. It is the way that God gives us our sustenance. That is the basic necessity of all living things. Water. Without water, there is no food. Without water, there is no life. And rain is that power that comes from God. And the beauty is, despite even today with the best technologies in the world, we're able to predict the weather is still, by definition, unpredictable. We don't know exactly when is it going to rain, how much is it going to rain, where is it going to rain, and that is something that very much plays into the relationship that one has still to this day with God through nature. When it comes to rain, as it says, "V'natati gishmechem beitam," I will give you the rains in the right times. This represents our relationship with God, especially in the land of Israel, where very much we are dependent on rain, but especially through the modicum of the land. If you think about it as an agricultural people, as especially we used to be a lot more in the past, rain was the main live or die moment. If there was no rain, there was a drought. If there's a drought, there's a famine. If there's a famine, along with famine comes illness, comes disease, comes plague, comes war, people fighting, over resources. At the end of the day, the key to life is rain. But today we don't live in an agricultural society. A vast minority of all work done by humanity revolves around the production of food. Today we produce many other things. So what is the equivalent of rain today? Especially if we're saying this every single day, how can we really connect today to the modern version of Hashem giving us rain? And I think a very good equivalent to rain could be the stock market. The stock market, by the way, quite a modern invention, started in Europe in the 1600s. It's only been going for about 500 years, especially if you compare that to rain, which has been going for a lot longer. The stock market also has its ups and its downs. It has its unpredictability. The stock market, by definition, is based on variabilities that sometimes you can control and sometimes you can't. Sometimes there are crashes that cannot necessarily be explained that simply. No one can really predict the stock market going forwards. If they could, they'd be very, very rich. That is a whole profession trying to predict, just like you have people having the weather forecast, you have the economic forecast. The stock market today very much represents the geshem, the parnasa, the ability to make an economic living, to be able to sustain oneself, is very much represented in the stock market. And this ties in beautifully with a famous statement that Chazal make in the Midrash. They say there are 3 keys that can open up gates, that only God has the key to these gates. The first one is birth. Only God knows if the baby is going to be born healthy, also male or female. Today we can predict, but we can't change the sex of the baby. God controls death. Again, people can kill other people, but that's not necessarily the only way that people die. We don't know if someone's ill, if they're going to get better or not. We don't know if someone is going to recover and stuff like that. So life, death, and the third one, as Benjamin Franklin would say, is taxes. Parnasa, right? The only things that are predictable in life, that are predictable because they are unpredictable. The third piece is Geshem. Mafteach shel Gshamim. Only God knows whether the market is going to go up or the market is going to go down. Again, we can predict in the immediate, but we can't predict long term. Same with the weather. And I think it's a good thing to recognize when we read the Parasha of Kriyat Shema, we sometimes, and again, this is sometimes a thought that pops into my head, what does that mean? If I keep the mitzvot, then God will give me rain? What is this? Some sort of kind of machine that if I, push the slots, if I do the mitzvot correctly, then I get rain? As one of my teachers once said, the divine vending machine. If we put in the right, coins, then we'll get the can of rain, the can of, economic success. How does that work? And I think the answer is we have to take a much longer term perspective. People often think that's how tefillah works. If I daven for something, if I pray for something, then I expect that to happen. I said to God, please God, help me pass my driving test. And then I didn't pass my driving test. Well, is there even a God? Does this even exist? And you can take that on what, a slightly more ridiculous example as I gave, or you could take it more seriously. I prayed to God for someone to get better and they died, or they didn't recover. We often think that's how it works. And the reason we think that is because that's one of the most ancient mistakes ever made. That is at the root of paganism. I want there to be rain. So I will give a sacrifice, whether it's an animal sacrifice, whether it's a human sacrifice, as they did in the ancient times, to the God of rain, and that will give me rain. Basically, I will pull the lever, and if I don't succeed, I'll keep pulling the lever until I get rain. In that case, in that model of paganism, really the gods work for you. You are the one controlling the gods. You need rain, so you will go to the god and say, what can I pay you for this rain? How can you work for me? What is your cost? What is your payment? That is not how it works with God. When it says, "V'haya im shamah tishma'un," if you listen to me, then I will give you rain, is not the pagan system of, well, if you are a good Jew, then God will give you a bonus at the end of the month. That's not how it works. Instead, it's a much deeper understanding of cause and effect. Why do we want rain? We want rain to live. Why do we want to live? That is, in many ways, at the very basis of all theology and philosophy. What is the purpose of life? What is the purpose of me? Why am I even here? Why do I want to have breakfast in the morning? Today everyone is on vacation. This is the period of vacation. Why are we on vacation? So that we can work. Why do we work? So that we can go on vacation. What is that cycle? What is the purpose of life? You work to live or live to work. What is the purpose? Why do I want rain? Why do I want money in the bank? The equivalent today. The answer is, because part of creation is creation of man. And part of creation of man, in many ways the epicenter, the pinnacle of creation of man, is to have a relationship with God. And here is where it ties in beautifully back in with rain. Why is rain so unpredictable? Because rain is the way that man and God constantly converse. We see in the parasha, it discusses the idea of God doesn't just give us the Nile, like in Egypt, where we get unlimited water for as much as we want. In many ways, God's saying, here you go, I filled up the dog bowl, I don't need to speak to you ever again. Instead, we need to have that relationship with God, because we need to remind ourselves of the purpose of life. Why do we want rain? When we stand and daven for rain, one of the things we daven for most of all in the Jewish calendar to this very day, the purpose there is saying, God, we really want you. We don't want the stock market to succeed because we want to buy a new yacht. We want the stock market to succeed because we want to have a meaningful life, and money would help us on that purpose, on that trajectory. Really, the reason we want to live, the reason we want to succeed, the reason we want money, the reason we want a bank account to be, healthy, is because we want to live a good life. And what is a good life? A good life is a life on the right trajectory. A good life is a life in which we have a relationship with God, in which we are trying to follow in God's footsteps. One can say we are trying to be good people, to follow the model of the good, which comes from God. That is the basis of the whole relationship with rain. So to summarize, we went on an interesting journey there philosophically. When we say V'hayayim Shama Tishma'on Mitzvotai, when we do the second paragraph of Shema, we're basically reminding ourselves, why are we asking for rain? Why does God give us life in exchange for a relationship? Because the relationship is the secret of life. There is no life without the relationship with God. And so when we ask Hashem, please give us life, that is code for asking Hashem for having that relationship with God. So Be'ezrat Hashem, as we read through V'hayayim Shamoah, that is a secret, that is a code. We can now decode it as understanding the deep relationship between man and God through rain and the modern stock market. So Be'ezrat Hashem, I give us all a bracha that we constantly remember the meaning of life, constantly search for a deeper understanding of the meaning of life. And Be'ezrat Hashem, even though it's now the middle of the summer, we're about to start thinking about Sukkot, the beginning of the winter. It's a good time to start thinking about rain as well. Shabbat Shalom.